Okay, it has been at least an hour since the birth. We gave Sonia and her little baby that golden hour and any more that she needed. Um, Sonia was able to breastfeed between the time of birth and now, and so we were able to um, assess that sucking. But I will still do that through my exam. But everything's off to a great start. Again, no complications. So now we can begin. I washed my hands and I donned some clean sterile some clean sterile gloves. I have all my supplies ready that I would need. I go according to my newborn checklist, and I have this here so I don't forget anything. So as I step through it, then if I forget something, I just refer back to this. So, oh, and I have my Ballard gestational age assessment sheet. So I always start at the top, and I fill the fontanelle and the sutures, and I check for any overlapping, any caput, any cell hematomas, any of that. And I note anything that needs to be noted. If it's normal, I note that it's normal. And then I go down and I check the ears and make sure that they're symmetrical. And a lot of times babies aren't really willing to open their eyes. But if they are, then I check that red reflex. I check their nose to make sure that both sides are working, and I wait to do the mouth until I can put on some new clothes, because now my hands most likely have vernix on them. So then I go down and I feel the shoulders, the clavicle, and I move each arm to make sure there's not any clicking. Good job. And I go down the sternum, feeling, making sure that it's whole, feeling all quadrants of the baby, making sure that all the organs are in place and there's nothing of concern. I go down and I feel her legs, make sure there's not any clicking. And in this spot, then I'll also feel for that femoral pulse. Make sure that I'm getting the on both sides. And I check, because this one's a girl, I check to make sure that her labia is formed fully, and if it was a boy, then I would check the testes to see if they had descended. So while I have her here, then I do her feet, do all the reflexes on her feet, and then I will check down the spine. Let me roll her this way so you can see. So I check down her spine, make sure it's whole, turn her on to her belly, and see what her reflexes on her belly are. If she lifts up her head, or if she's turning, or if she's just how she's responding. And I'll spike her size and see if she moves her body, kind of, and just see how she responds in this position. And I roll it to her back, and I can do her brachial pulse and also the startle reflex. And then I listen to her. I'm going to listen to her heart in all quadrants, and I'm also getting what her heart rate is. And then I'm listening also to her lungs. Again, all sides of the lungs, on the front and on the back. And I'm doing this quickly, but I'm actually going to be listening to her lungs for at least a minute, and her heart at least a minute. And I turn, and I again listen to her heart and her lungs. Make sure that I know if there's any cracking or any murmurs of her heart or anything. And her heart sounds good. Her heart rate is 125, and her respirations are at 60. And then I can also come down. I come down below her umbilical cord, and I listen for her bowels. And I want to hear that crackling sound, and I do. So that means her bowels are working, as we have not yet seen a bowel movement from her. And now that I have listened to her, and I I checked her anus to make sure it's patent. I've checked over her body to see if she has any birthmarks that need to be noted. And then before I take off my gloves to switch them out to check her mouth, then I want to check my assessment sheet, and let's see, I checked out her hands, her eyes, her ears, her nose, her neck. I will be doing measurements for her chest and her abdomen and her height. Checked her lungs, her heart, checked her genital urinary, her anus, her musculoskeletal, and checked most of her reflexes and checked her skin. Okay, so now I will do my measurements. Measure her head. There's this 13 3/4. And then I will check her abdomen, or her chest, sorry. And she's at 12.5. And then her abdomen, she's at 12.5. And I'll check her height. If the babies are cooperative, then I often will just line this up with the top of their head like this, and then I work my way down their body and stretch out their leg to get their height. She is 16.5. Or if they're not very cooperative, then I will lay my measuring tape onto a Chuck's pad, where I will mark the top of their head and then pull or straighten their leg and mark the bottom, and then I'll measure it that way. So now that I've done all the measurements, I will also weigh her. So I'm going to put her in my little sling. And I'll weigh her. Boop. Good job, baby. I will take off gloves, do new ones so I can examine her mouth. So when I go in, I'm going to go to check to see that the top of her mouth is formed. I'll be checking for lip ties and tongue ties, as well as her sucking. Make sure that she's got good suction. And during the newborn exam is also when I will administer the vitamin K and the erythromycin if the parents have consented to that. And we will also take her temperature. She is 97.9 and her mom is 97.6, and so we're not concerned because they are about the same. And then I want to know what gestational age she is. And so I'll pull out my Ballard sheet to check and see how she is. How is she laying? Does she have her legs up here, or is she laid out flat? This baby actually looks like she'd probably be about a 1. And then we check the hand to see if her hand's like this or how flexed it is. And we check to see what happens if I do this. Does she put her hands back? Does she keep them there? Does she do this? If I bring her legs up, what does she do with her legs and how far do they go? And then also bring one arm over, see where she puts it. One arm over, see where she puts it. If I bring her legs up, where does she put it? And I check to see how much lanugo she has on her. What do her palms look like? Is there any peeling? What about her feet? Is there any peeling? My Ballard sheet isn't very readable, but I would go through my whole Ballard sheet. Again, this is my cheat sheet to walk me through, again, what do I look for, and what are the different ratings of that to figure out about how many weeks is this baby. And so let me go through my checklist one more time to make sure that I did everything. Oh, one reflex that I did forget is the walking reflex. I will stand her up and make sure that she'll walk, do a couple steps. Good, she does. And that would be the end of my assessment.